for the ground level, let's say, we'll install the slab on the lower floor. We'll also install the walls, the slab, the concrete columns. We'll complete the soffit forming. We'll pour the ground slab, and between that, let me start over. You know, we obviously have to install the reinforcement in the slab, and then we'll take it up. Once we install the reinforcement, we'll pour the slab, we'll pour the columns, we'll soffit form. There's always going to be one floor of shoring, 2 floors of reshoring, and we'll take it up that way. Soffit forming, pour the slab, install the walls and columns. Soffit forming, you know, install the slab, install the walls and columns, and soffit forming. We'll take it on up that way.
Then, as far as sequencing goes, we didn't identify it on this plan, but we plan on working our way out for structure sort of in this fashion, in order to be able to maximize our use of this road closure here. So, you know, break it out into 3 sections basically in order to have manageable pours and work our way around the structure of it like that.
So we talked about how this is a modified design build project, and I see in the timeline that you gave that we would receive notice to proceed in November, or correction, award would be in November, but notice to proceed would be in April. That sound about right?
Award is November.
So what happens between the award in November and notice to proceed in April? What happens during that time?
Well, it's actually more over a year, right, Cliff?
Yeah, it's over a year
and a half
so
that the project settles.
Yeah.
It just sits idle before we're actually given direction to proceed with design. So in that part, we aren't brought aboard until then, until April 18th.
Josh, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I was looking at the schedule, Cliff, and just some housekeeping stuff. I know that I know what you were trying to do with showing every floor, but I think it would be better to show a typical floor of your P4 through 7, and then your 9 through the roof, because you're at like 1,300 activities, and your average duration for rough-in is 2 days per floor, and your average duration for finishes is 1 day per floor. And I think that was probably just due to the fact you were trying to squeeze so many activities into the schedule. And really, whenever you're doing the baseline, you want to show your plan and that you're competent in what you're doing, not show every single activity running down the schedule.
Okay. As far as the finish, it's a little more than 1 day per floor. You know, it's around say 9 or 10 days per floor. But what I've got
per trade.
Oh, per trade. Okay.
Yeah, insulate walls 1 day, insulate drywall 2 days, 1, 2, 1, 16 days per floor. But you're gonna have everybody working on top of each other.
Okay.
So I think it'd be best to set up your schedule, just doing the math per floor of what it's gonna take to get you there, as far as your structure, and then obviously your skin, interiors. But I also had a really tough time with that when I was doing it. Really helped me out was just making it simpler, and then if you have time to expand it, that's great, but I think you started off expanded and then tried to condense down and ended up screwing your durations up.
Okay.
Let's take the next 10 minutes here. I'd like to ask questions as if we are the panel at Reno, talking to the project team asking them to present in character. And then once we're done with that, we'll turn around and do feedback. Does that make sense? All right, so let's keep going with that.
I have a question. If you go back to the concrete slides up there, I heard you guys talking a lot about schedule, maintaining schedule, keeping a pace, repetitive, but I never heard anything about quality and how we are going to ensure that the owner is satisfied with the quality of this concrete. Can you guys please talk a little bit about how you're going to mitigate the quality control for the finished concrete?
Right, so Hensel Phelps quality control program, right, we have, with our concrete, tradesmen, right, so we'll have pour cards, right, that'll be signed off by different parties or different trades out there. So there'll be pour cards for, the reinforcement guys, there'll be pour cards for the in-slab MEP guys, and then the same card will be signed off by the, actual placing crew. So this card, we don't have an example with us, but basically it would have each tradesman sign off their scope of work on the following trade accepted. So with that, right, our superintendents are out there, our foremen are out there, making sure our specs are being met. But as far as quality goes, it would hold each trade accountable and really make sure everybody's taking that second look at it before moving on to the next step. So that'll help us to make sure that all of our embeds are correct, our tie rods are all in the right spot, and our make sure our rebar and everything is all in place correctly, and then of course we'll have our special inspector on site too, carried under the owner, and they'll be verifying rebar tying, slump testing, and doing all of the other typical quality control.
Alan, we were talking about staff a little bit, and we saw the staff chart up there. And it wasn't clear to me who we're expecting on the project team to be the single point of contact with the client. Because all clients want one guy or gal that they can talk to. So for this project, who is that going to be?
So if you can see, you can pull up the staff chart. A little bit down. Yeah, we have the project manager as the point of contact with Strata Properties.
Mm-hmm.
So he's gonna be in charge. He's gonna communicate with the project superintendent any schedule needs, and he's gonna oversee all the paperwork and all the office management.
Okay.
So he's gonna be the one responsible for taking over the change orders, any changes, and just coordinating with the owner.
So does the project superintendent answer to the project manager?
It's a little mistake. It should be like around the same level. The project superintendent is just he'll be in charge of the field, but they'll be working together, not under the project manager. Just a little mistake.
Sure.
I got a question for John.
Go ahead.
On the proposal summary, I see that you have awarded Mighty Ducks the contract with the bond rate at 2.5%. Can you go into your evaluation of why you're awarding the person with the highest bond rate the contract?
It's a good question. Simply as I went through the proposals, I came to the fact that they had the lowest bid. And that's essentially why they got the job.
Okay. Is there anything does that raise any red flags at 2.5 or?
Yeah, now that you bring it up, it does raise a red flag to my mind. But at the time, just went straight through it, came to the bottom line, and that was based on the selection. That was the selection. But yeah, definitely that's something that should have taken into account.
So we'll make sure to follow up and give them a call and see why that bond rate is high. Hopefully it's something pretty safe. Like maybe they just have a lot of work in their backlog right now, and hopefully it's something manageable like that, and not something that poses a risk to us. But we'll make sure to check up on that, Josh.
John, I had another question. When you were going over the quality, some of your to mitigate that in the future from that, I didn't hear anything about samples, like samples for the color for the owner to approve. Did I miss that, or was that not talked about? I'm not sure.
That's a good question.
Samples and submittals, was that ever reviewed for the color?
Yeah, so there was a full submittal on it as far as from the owner and choosing a different color. It was more so the fact that the subcontractor dropped the ball and their quality control really failed in their own shop. You know, all the processes were done correctly as far as documentation, the correspondence, in order to direct the work. But it was more so, you know, miscommunication on their end in their shop before fabrication to make sure that their actual shopsman got the right color before throwing everything in the fab.
And it is our standard quality control procedure to visit the shops to make sure that everything is correct. We do have a quality control program in place that you know, goes through all of the materials before they're on site to make sure that everything is right.
For site utilization, who did that? Francisco? In any case, whoever can respond, I didn't see anything indicated with regard to a concrete pump or where the pump would be placed. Do we have that covered?
No, so we're basically planning to have a slick line up and then use a crane for as far as moving formwork and buckets and whatnot. But really the staging area will be anywhere along our road closure here.
And where would the slick line then travel up through the building? Do we have that identified?
I think this is block out just right here.
So we ought to label that.
Mhm.
I got a question while we're on site utilization. How are we planning on getting materials to the man hoist on the interior courtyard, it looks like, whenever there's a ramp that leads down into the parking structure right there?
That must have been an oversight because I think the plan was here to use this light blue space. I think the ramp is just over here, but the plan was to use this light blue space in order to get you know, small forklifts and move material over to the man lift. And really anything bigger, heavier than that, we'll have to use our crane to raise later on. So we're definitely going to pay attention to make sure we get equipment, anything heavy like that, in as early as we can and get those submittals. So we'll be using a submittal tracking log in order to identify those things early on and get them in before we lose our crane.
Is the man lift platform placed on the slab, or is it placed on grade?
It's on grade. Yeah, so the right there's very little hardscape to the project, and it'll be done at the very end just to tie it all up.
How tall are the existing buildings? And did you guys consider the radius of the crane?
Yeah. So Paul actually did the site plan and he had it written down. The building's just over 200 feet tall. I think we planned for the crane to be 250 or 270 feet high.
You guys consider that? Okay.
And with the radius, you know, we're towering over the next building, so make sure not to actually hover over it, but we don't pose the threat of actually hitting it.
Any other questions?
I just wanted a quick explanation on the construction to close the man hoist work and when they were planning on switching over to the permanent elevator that would be in the building.
I'm sorry, what was that?
When are you guys planning on switching over to the permanent elevator in the building, and how are you going to close the man hoist zipper?
I mean, Cliff, I don't think we have our schedule right in front of us, right, to hit the actual date. But
In general, can
yeah,
we
but the
talk through what that sequence might be?
yeah, so where we placed it, right, was basically a unit that we found, a unit that was consistent all the way up, and then it's basically going into the living room of this unit, and it's a curtain wall system that we can button up. That was something that I know Paul and Alan went over during the planning of the man lift when they did the site utilization. So I don't think we have an actual date, but the plan was, you know, we found a location that's consistent all the way up, give us the same open space, and it's a curtain wall that we can just zipper up later on.